All right, everybody. Unfortunately, today's video has to be made, but there's a few important things that we're going to cover in it. Like, if you don't know what you're doing, you should consult instructions. And if you're prone to forgetting things, you should probably make lists of the things that you do before you do them. So, to sum it up, today's video is about I've damaged some components in my new hardcore PC, and we're going to be talking a little bit about it in today's video, and we're going to put some clips of fixing it, and then we're going to show you the new PC. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. So let's get into what I suspect has happened, what I've done, and what now I am going to do. So what I suspect has happened is I've done one of a couple, or maybe a combination of things that have made my computer run very poorly. It's glitching, it's crashing. Sometimes when I turn it on, CPU usage will spike up to 100 and I've got no programs running and it won't end. My mouse will get all glitchy. I'm told this is a sign of overheating, but this is turning my PC on first thing in the morning after it hasn't been on. I think what's gone on, there's one of a couple of things that's happened. So I decided to update my BIOS a while back because there was a relevant update to some of the issues that I was having previous to this. So I upgraded my BIOS, and I believe I may have put the wrong chipset BIOS on here, putting the right one on afterwards. However, I've been suffering a cascading series of issues ever since with weird anomalous things happening. So that is maybe potentially reason number one. Reason number two, I've got a 10 fan setup plus the 3 GPU fans in there, so it's a little ridiculous. And NZXT has RGB controllers that I'm using, and they have fan ports as well. They take a SATA 2 power source as well as a USB 2.0 pinned header on your motherboard. So I have two of these controllers. I have two 2.0 headers. Sounds great. Until I added the Kraken Elite 360, which also takes a USB 2.0 pinned header. So it came with, included was a Y splitter for that. So I unwisely decided to use the Y splitter on the two RGB controllers, the two 6-way RGB controllers. And I think what I've done is I've overloaded the pin, the power pin on one of those, and I've caused some kind of error in my motherboard. So it's either one or two or the both of those creating issues. So I ended up having a computer tech come down because I thought maybe I was having some type of weird registry errors, like things like Windows security won't even open, it just white screens on me. I've got all sorts of weird stuff. Sometimes I'll fire my computer up, it'll be glitchy. Sometimes it runs fine. I'll run games, but it seems like out of my 7900 XTX, I'm really not getting very much performance, which brings me on to my next point of what I think I did. So if you guys are not familiar with lane switching, you should familiarize yourself with it, because I think what I may have inadvertently done was dialed back the lanes on my PCI Express 16 card slot, 5.0, blah, 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 from 16 lanes down to 8 lanes. I'm pretty sure I've done this, and it was unintentional. It was not even being ill-advised, it was being unadvised. So if you have a motherboard, read your manual. It's going to be specific to each board. Sometimes when you put an M.2 card into one of your, say you've got 2 or 4 or however many slots, it will switch your lane switching, so you will no longer have 8 or 16 lanes, going to your PCI Express card, which I've been told in some scenarios may not be a big deal. But I feel like when you're running a 7900 XTX, it's a big deal, okay? And I've noticed massive performance loss in gaming. So there's also, should be mentioned, I've noticed in some motherboards, is if you use there's multiple ports for PCI Express, and on my current motherboard, the bottom one is a PCI port Gen 4. If you use that slot, it will actually take 4 laneways away as well, thus potentially making your laneways to your graphics card. And if you're a gamer, it's going to be important not to disrupt those laneways, thus making your graphics card much less effective. So if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. This is just what I've come up with, guys. I am not a computer tech. I am just a computer nerd looking to make some fun videos on the internet that hopefully one day you guys will start watching. So the other thing I thought I would tell you that I found very insulting, belittling, and which has led me on a quest to just upgrade hardware and throw parts at this, is when I had a computer tech come down here. I'm not going to mention names of company or anything. if you're watching, you know who you are. But anyways, they come down here and they said, oh my God, this thing's running at like 75, 80 degrees. It's insane. Okay, well, I'm riding a Ryzen 7 7700X. Now, though I would agree, you can get them to run cooler. They're rated to run up to 95 degrees. This guy was convincing me that my computer was overheating my CPU and thus shutting it down from a power warning, which there was nothing in my log from that. So he basically, at the end of the day, told me to go get an Intel. Well, the thing that made me question him was at first he was like, well, what other chipsets can you put on this motherboard? What? That's the first time I've heard of that, but okay. And then he's telling me how to solve my problem is to go buy an Intel-based chipset. And I told him to pound sand, paid him his ridiculous amount of money, and sent him frickin' shipping out the door. So that cost me almost $300 Canadian to have a tech come to my house to basically float through everything that I had already done, come up with no solutions. He did a hard reset. That's about the only thing he didn't do that I did to get my computer to actually turn back on. And the issues persisted immediately after he left. His advice was, okay, now it's running reasonable, don't touch it anymore. I'm like, dude, this is a $6,000 computer. That's not a computer that you build not to touch anymore. Like, grow up, okay? Grow up. If that's your advice, get a new job. Maybe you should be an Uber driver or something. I don't know. But anyways, enough of that rant. That guy's a loser. So, what we got going on here is I'm gonna do 2 upgrades. So what I've been doing is I've been running off my Wi-Fi and it's been reasonably well. I've been noticing ping issues in some of my online gaming. So, upgrade number 1, Cat 6 LAN cable directly into the back of your computer. This is a cheap upgrade too. If you go with the blue cord, I picked that up for, I believe it was $39.99 for 100 feet of it. They promised me up and down that there wouldn't be any kind of performance loss over the 100-foot cable because it's Cat 6 and apparently it can carry integrity and signal strength that far without any issues. So we're going off face value for that. Now, throughout all my diagnosis, I kept coming up with 2 components that may be causing this issue. There's a slight chance it could be a PSU. The PSU in this it was brand new. It's only a few months old now. It's a Corsair RM1000E, I believe, which the only thing I can see that maybe might back that up is it's only rated to 40 degrees Celsius. It has an internal shut off, I believe, at that rate. The X version of the same power supply, I believe, goes up to 50 degrees Celsius. So if we have any kind of continuing issues, we are going to go with a new PSU as well. But that's not today's video. In today's video, cut to the meat and potatoes, we are going to be installing this. As I rip my thermal paste, my fancy thermal paste. Hopefully you guys can see this well. So what this is the Republic of Gamers, or ROG's Strict X670E gaming Wi-Fi motherboard. This thing is a bloody beast. I considered the hero, but I'll be honest with you, for me, I don't think it's worth $250 more Canadian. So I picked this up at my local Memory Express, is where I buy almost all my stuff. I price match. They're pretty good always with their pricing, but I found this advertised slightly lower on, I believe it was Canada Computers and Amazon. It was listed at $589. Memory Express had it on for $607, so not a huge difference. But when you're buying your second motherboard within, I don't know, 6 months, yeah, it's nice to save a few bucks. So remember that as a tip, guys. Put these people against each other. They're in it to make money. There is profit margins. You don't have to gut them, but you know what? You might as well keep the playing field even across the board. If you don't save money where you can, it's going to inhibit your ability to put money into your system where it's important for you. I almost sounded intelligent there. So if I'm completely blowing smoke out my rear end, let me know in the comments below. Straighten me out. I'll edit it. We'll put in the right stuff. From what I've had as personal experience and from what I've read online, I believe I'm speaking factual right now. But all right, I figured out a camera angle that might actually still be able to capture what I'm doing here. So what I did off camera was I just put these standoffs. These are for the IAO cooler. Okay, so those are for the Kraken Elite 360, and it is important that you put these in the correct orientation because one way is AM4, one way is AM5. These little black collars. So noted, always read your instructions or you will not end up with perfect results. What I'm going to do now is install this CPU real quick. So this is pretty much foolproof, you guys. You see there's I don't know if you're seeing that right there. You see that little marker? There's also one down here. I don't know if you can see it very well, but
So that marker will also be, so be careful that you don't touch the bottom of these contact pads, okay guys? You don't want to do that. But what we're going to do is we're going to line up this one here with that one down there, and we're going to place this really, really gently. There's actually little keyways where it will only go in the right way, okay? I mean, you can probably do it out of alignment, but what I mean by that is right there, there's two little slots, so you will not be able to put this 90 degrees out. I bet you probably, yeah, it's not even proportional, it's 60-40 split, so that means you literally cannot put this in wrong. The freaky part's about to happen. So, you can remove this black plate, but they suggest you just go like this, and I swear this is perfectly normal. And now you have a installed CPU. Congratulations, and you probably didn't wreck anything. Maybe. Now, important note. You're going to want to keep this, put this in the box for your motherboard. Don't throw out your motherboard box, because if you ever want to sell this or have to take it back for whatever, this is what protects the pins, okay? Because in this generation CPU, the bottom of the CPU is flat with just pads. The pins are no longer like AM4. They're actually on the motherboard now. So very important that you keep this so you don't damage anything, okay? We're going to reinstall our RAM. So this is some pretty good RAM for this setup. This is a 6,000 speed DDR5 Trident Z5 Neo RAM. So this is also the AMD Expo ready version. So important, if you are going to run AMD Expo, you probably want to have the AMD Expo version of this RAM. Okay. Make sure it clicks on both ends, because if you do not have your RAM installed properly, it's not going to be a good day. So I'm just going to move this out to the edge there, so I'm on the edge of the box and I'm not flexing my board as much. So there's one stick. And consult your motherboard. This one is, like most, it's the second and the fourth slot when you're going to be running a 2DIMM setup. Because most of these motherboards are only dual channel, I hate to let you know, so you're better off getting bigger 2 sticks of memory than you are smaller 4 sticks to account for the same gigabyte size, if that makes sense. Up here, there's a little LED display, so this helps you troubleshoot. There's also a start button built right onto the motherboard, which can be really, really handy. Just so much amazing stuff going on here. Okay, well said. Now we're going to install the M.2 drives, okay? So this is when you really want to pay attention to your manual. This particular motherboard also, if we use PCIe lane 3 at the bottom of the motherboard here, that is going to affect our lane switching, okay, and that's not good. We don't want that. Alright, let's install our operating system drive here. And this drive has got this big honking heat sink on it. It's pretty rad. Holy smokes, that's heavy. So one thing you're going to want to do is there is actually some plastic on here. When we install our drive, we're going to have to take this off, okay? So it's on both sides, so just please beware of that, because it will probably cause you some thermal throttling issues potentially if you do not remove that. So that is a head out of butt moment, is what I would call that. You do not want to have your head up your ass when you're doing this. Okay, so to install these, you go up on a nice angle, slip her in. The beauty is it kind of only goes on one way, so oh, these are really nice, these little detents that hold this in. My fingers are just too fat, but yeah, it just turns right into the card. Oh wow, that's super duper secure. Okay, so now before you reinstall this, what you're going to want to do is pull this plastic off of here. Okay, so just like that. What I would say, you guys, is this is a computer. This is not a piece of construction equipment, so when you tighten your screws down, I would go like, you know when you tighten a spark plug, you snug it and you do a quarter turn? I would snug this and just do like an eighth of a turn, because literally, other than fan vibration, there shouldn't be any vibration. Do I pull these off now? Yeah, I'm going to start pulling these off now. Ooh. So it says in here that number 3, if I install something into number 3, it will limit my lanes down to 8 on PCI Express 1 location and 4 onto PCI Express 2 location. So we will not be installing in the number 3 drive location. Number 1 drive location was here. I've installed my operating system driver on there. So this one says M.2 number 2 right here. This is socket 3, so this is the one we do not want to put anything in 3. Bad, 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 bad. So M dot number 2, I think what we'll do is I will throw my gaming drive in number 2, and we will throw the creator drive in number 4. So that is this drive over here. Again, this is a Western Digital 850 2 terabyte gaming drive.
If you don't believe me, right there, right by my thumb, 2 terabytes.
This guy don't lie. You can be a lot of things in this world, just don't be a liar. Liars suck. Oh crap, I think mine are the single-sided ones here. I just about made a mistake. Yes, okay, so this riser right here, if you have what I have, which is like a single-sided SSD, meaning there's not a chipset on each side, you need this thing to go on here. And I have no fingernails, so this is like about as fun as going to renew your driver's license, which normally is not much fun. Okay, so you just put that on there like I did. And I noticed it, you would notice it if you're paying attention, if you push down in the center, it was flexing, whereas now it's a little bit, but not nearly what it was a minute ago, so I'm going to go with that. You guys still see what's going on? We still in shot here. But as I say, I think I'm going to install this big monster here. And if it doesn't fit, I will uninstall it. But what this is, I'll show you in a second here once I get it out. So this is the one that comes pre-installed. This is just a heatsink for your two M.2 drives. As you see, this one's low profile. So if you've got fitment issues with like your GPU, which I very well might have, especially since I'm going to orient it in the horizontal position, or vertical position, sorry. So there's also adhesive on the back of this, guys. This is it. Look at this thing, it's beef cake. And with all these cutouts, what it does is it increases the surface area. Instead of having a flat spot, which would be like an inch, with all this, it's probably like 2 inches of cooling. So this is a chunk of aluminum here, guys. This thing's awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to orient it properly, and then that's the one. So we'll take the thermal adhesive off of here. This is, again, not really the easiest thing to get these screws in, but oh, I got that one first try. So there you go. You just got to talk smack. This one I can kind of sort of see, so it's not as bad. But what this should do is pull a lot more heat out of that M.2 drive there, and since this is my gaming drive, I mean, it's probably going to be one of the most... Sorry guys, I'm trying to focus there to not do these screws. I really don't want to strip this motherboard out. That would really suck. Take that guy off of there. Maybe I'll put it back on this one. So on here, I don't know what the relevance of this is, but this says Control plus WASD. Maybe that's how you turn some mode on. I don't know. When I fire up the computer, I'm going to try and remember that to see. But it says right, I got the sticker back on it, but it says right there, Control plus WSAD. I know those are your movements, but like if you push Control in all 4 of those, I'm just curious. I wonder if something actually happens there. Now, there's on the back side, there's this thing. I'm just going to peel it off now because I will forget, and the little tab was going to be inside the computer. This is just like the little scratch protector for the back. Pretty straightforward stuff. Now, we've got one more M.2 drive, my creator drive, that we're going to stick into this stall, which is number 4. As far as I know, this one will not throttle you down. This one runs off of your chipset and not your PCI, or not your CPU lanes. So again, if I am not describing that accurately, I apologize. That is just, to my knowledge, what I think is going on. And that was part of my problem in my previous computer, is I'm not sure which slot, but I'm pretty sure one of them limited me, and I'm pretty sure that whole time I was gaming on 8 lanes on a 7900 XTX, which, as far as I know, isn't cool. And as far as my experience went, wasn't very good. So here is my creator drive. This is a FireCuda 530 series. This is a Gen 4. All mine are Gen 4. I haven't bought into the Gen 5 wave yet. So we shall now install the creator drive. I think that just goes like that. These are super duper easy to install in this motherboard, you guys. It just basically, it's already all set up. You just slip it down, away you go. Again, You've done a good job already a couple times. Let's not screw up the final one, and make sure you remove this, because I'm not sure. There's probably someone who does like technical tests, like Linus or one of those guys, that actually has a video on this if you leave this crap on, what it does, but I'm not that technical. I'm just the jackass who wants to build computers and give them away at some point if we can get monetized. Okay, now which way did this go? This went on like this, so again, you kind of gotta have a degree in small thing building, modeling maybe, would be helpful. Okay, that actually went in quite easily. Now, always with these things, don't just, I kind of might have just screwed myself, yeah. Don't over tighten anything first. Always run both of your screws down, because that was trying to flip the one side of this card up, right? So you don't want to be doing that. I'm gonna run that down to almost snug, and then I'm gonna run this one down, and then I'll go back again. Hopefully, probably all you can see is my hands, but one of the things that I do too, because I'm super OCD about things, is I am going to make all these screws line up, because if I look at my computer and they're not all sitting nice, it's going to drive me nuts. So apologies if you see me doing that. It's not my choice, okay? It's called OCD for a reason. Yay! I think that's about it for the pre-build before we shove her in the computer hole. That's a technical term for mounting the motherboard, just so that you guys are aware. You want to shove it in the computer hole, okay? Man, is this thing heavy compared to the old one. Holy smokies. Whoops. Try and get some of this stuff out my way. Okay, I got that resting. Oh, that fit in there really nice, super nice. I don't know if you can see how nice, but that is so nice. I'm saying it twice. It's nice. This would be just a good time to confirm that you're in. Maybe check the, oh God, that looks way better than those frickin' cheaper ones. Just the fitment back here on the panel cover. Holy smokes. Okay, that's worth the $300 right there. Of course, that was sarcasm, guys. Again, don't put them in too tight, you guys. Only takes once to screw this stuff up. And believe me, at the prices of these components, you don't want to be rebuying these. Or, well, I don't. If you want to rebuy them for me, by all means, I'll keep installing things. Probably the thing to do would be to begin the monotonous process of beginning to plug all this crap in here, okay? So, ugh. Okay, well, process of elimination. If we just start plugging stuff in, eventually it'll all be plugged in. Okay, there's two. Definitely want to listen for that little pop there, because if you don't have these connected right, you're going to have some issues. Okay, so let's do this 24 pin now. Okay, that went on with a decent enough click. So this is where I did have my radiator installed. This is a handy dandy little shroud that goes on the top of the PC. So the reason I'm moving this is because on the top of the PC, there's a glass panel right here, and it bottlenecks this whole area from going straight through into like a little 2-inch slit or less, right? So I don't like that. Like I say, I was having some problems getting the heat out of my CPU, so I've opted to move my cooler over to the side and blow them directly out the back of a mesh base. So okay, so this just basically drops in and slides forward. It's really awesome, really convenient. So, and then there's just these like sort of what holds your panels on the front and back panels of your computer. These just pre-installed. They usually don't come out of their homes, so they're pretty easy to work with. And then there's 2 screws on either side that are like a keyway. I usually tighten those back up here just because I don't want to hear anything vibrating or nothing. Again, it's a computer. It doesn't have to be ridiculous. Just snug them in so they don't fall out and get into your motherboard. See how slick and easy that is? This piece over here, there's actually a mounting shroud that comes out. So as you can see, I've got it installed here, but what the cool thing is, I don't know if you can see from this, I've put the radiator on the inside and the fans on the outside, so all it took was my fan screws to snug this back together. And what that's going to do, instead of having it built out the distance of the radiator and the fan out of the front, now we've just got the same fan profile, so it's going to look almost exactly the same as before. So This sits in a shroud with, again, it's got two of these same screws. You can kind of see them there. And there's one on the bottom that's removable. So this is entirely a very fast system. So what I'm going to do is just shove the water cooler portion through first. And then I left the screw in the back so I don't lose it. So I'm going to pull that out. And now, I believe, if you want to have a lot of fans, you better also have a lot of patience. That's what I would say about this. Same thing, there's just a few of these screws. So this thing came out as like a little cradle. It's actually really, really cool. I haven't built a whole lot of PCs, but I haven't seen one like this before. This is super awesome. So if you guys were ever to want to build like a computer that you can rip components out of often for testing or for whatever purposes, this is pretty cool, being able to preload up stuff and just modularly stick it in there. I'm liking that. But what we got going on here, which this is my one pet peeve about this case. So as you see, we've got these three fans coming out the top. This is your ideal radiator position, right? Now, the problem is the distance between the top of the fan and here is not that great. And now you've got all of this air trying to come up here, and it's trying to push out this tiny little slot on the back and out the top here. So NZXT, if you're listening, I think that you maybe, because of looking at the offsets here, you could have done this the same way, where you could have put the radiator on the top, sandwiched the fans, then you could have made this shroud lower so that it perhaps could have handled the airflow. Or here's a word to the wise, maybe this glass piece on the top, if you made this removable without removing the top of your power button and everything here, then when the guy's hardcore gaming, he could just take this glass panel off and let all the air come right out the top, right? So if you're listening, please take note of that. Maybe I'm nuts, maybe you don't have to listen, but that would be my input coming from a guy who's dealing with some heat issues. So take that for what you will. Now, as you can see, we're basically at the point where I believe we should try to mount this cooler onto the CPU. Now, there's so many videos out here to thermal pasting. A lot of people say smiley face, best thing, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to do a series of dots, and I'm actually going to spread this around. So I'm just going to put like a nice even amount of this stuff everywhere. I'm going to pre-spread it around a little bit because I think that that's the way to do it. But yeah, if you pre-spread this out, then it should make a pretty good thermal connection. Try not to make a big mess of this would be ideal. Can you see that? See how it's all nice and evenly coated? It's not ridiculously thick. It shouldn't be trying to goop off or nothing. So it's worth mentioning, you can change the orientation of these hoses here. I don't think I'm going to. Originally I was thinking I'm going to, but they were touching my graphics card before, and I was thinking, you know, when you're having issues with heat, maybe you shouldn't have it with the graphics card mounted in the horizontal position like I had it there. Sorry, vertical position. It was, the back plate was touching these hoses, which, again, if you're not battling with heat, I don't think you really need to be concerned. But when you're seeing temperatures that you don't like and you want to try and bring them down, maybe it's time for some concern, right? All right, it's time to slap this bad boy back in. This, of course, is the 7900 XTX from MSI. This is an AMD Radeon card that is pretty badass. Just that little double connector in there first. That one behind it, oh god, those are in there nice now. That repairman that came and worked on my computer unplugged these and plugged these back in, and they just looked awful. So again, if you're listening, shame, 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 shame. You suck. You probably don't suck, you just don't like AMD stuff, and if that's the case, you probably shouldn't come out to a call with an AMD gaming system that's having issues. Just putting it out there. Okay, now we gotta coax her into her home here. Okay, so now get in your home. There you are. Holy smokies. I'll tell you what, that does not get any easier every time you do it. And embarrassingly, I have done this many a times. The GPU fans were blowing out this way into the stagnant, or the CPU fans were blowing out this way into the stagnant area. I now have these fans blowing down, so that should help wash some air, and it's going to go out there. Wait, let me do that more technically. So again, and it's cool, but I'm not. All right, so holy matrimony, I think I am ready to see if this thing will post or not, which honestly, after that meticulous wire management, I really hope it posts, because oh no, Lord have mercy on me. Alright, and here is what an insane amount of OCD gets you for your wiring. I don't know how well that is going to show up on there, hopefully quite well. The only spot where it's a little bit ugly is hidden in behind my radiator here. But as you can see, I chose green as my color, and I have gone full-blown nut job, which honestly you should not do until you have tested, which I have not, but OCD took over again. So check that out. Isn't it a marvel of awe in everything that is beautiful and amazing? I know I've shown you on a previous video, but this is the back of the case, which if you ask me is just insane. And as you can see, there's going to be very little air restriction coming out of the back of this PC. As you can see, after all of that, here it is running, and it's doing exceptionally well. I don't know if it's going to be previously released or not, but you may notice a slightly different location for my PC, so that could be a spoiler alert, or you may be like, okay, we've already seen the video, dude. I'm not sure how I'm going to edit or upload these and in what order. So anyways, everything worked out great. All my anomalous issues are gone. Maybe we'll just briefly talk about that again quickly. Again, I'll reiterate on what I think I did earlier, and if you guys are, computer techie savvier much more than I am, which probably doesn't take that much, but anyways, let me know in the comments below if you think what I'm talking about is relevant, or maybe I'm just kind of blowing smoke in the air and I don't know what I'm talking about, or if maybe you think it's a different problem. So here's the spoiler alert to any hypotheses though. I did switch the motherboard and every single issue has gone away. I've had that motherboard installed for about 4 or 5 days now. I've played games at max settings. I've tried to make this thing do some of the issues it was doing before. So let's maybe get into some of the issues of what it was doing before. Okay, so I had a bunch of different issues. Some of them included, like, I had games crashing out anomalously on me, where I'd just be gaming. All my temperatures were fine. I was watching it on a couple different softwares, on my Kraken Elite, as well as through the AMD software through the AMD software projected on my gaming screen there. We would have random resets every once in a while. The system would just randomly reboot, and it really didn't kind of matter when. It didn't happen frequently, but it did happen a few times. One of the other major issues I noticed was the security update. Whenever I click on that icon, it was all white screen throughout. I could not do anything. I couldn't update the drivers for my headphones, the Topping DX3 Pro Plus or whatever, sitting right there. You can't really see it. I also had an issue with my mouse cursor moving extremely slow, and when you'd fire up the system, it would take forever to load like the NZXT app and to go through all the apps that I launch on startup. So that was really weird. And then I'd reboot it and it would start up relatively normal again. I also experienced quite a few issues when I'm gaming, just with weird anomalous things like reflection of light in a puddle would show up as a series of dots and not as what it was supposed to be reflecting. And I mean, I have a 7900 XTX, you can kind of see it right there. It's a beast, right? What I think may have contributed to that problem though, I had the MSI Pro version of the 670 board, and I couldn't find it in their manual, and I think what was going on is I was making the motherboard go into lane switching, so I wasn't getting all 16 lanes to my PCIe port. It was only giving me 8 lanes, so that could have been contributing to some of these issues as well. But mainly, I think what I did was I put the wrong BIOS on the board. I was having issues before that. I can't remember why. I was reinstalling my operating system, trying to get rid of, I think it was secure. It wasn't updating Windows was what it was going on. It was screwing up a Windows update, and it wouldn't do it. So I figured, let's do a fresh reinstall of the operating system. And then I did it, and I still had issues persisting, and I had done a partial install, saving all files, so then I did a complete reinstall. Then when I did that and I was doing my chipset driver, I may have put the wrong, it was the same type of motherboard, even through MSI, but it wasn't the Pro version. I think I may have put the wrong chipset driver, sorry for scratching, put the wrong chipset driver software on there, and that may be causing all these issues. The other issue that I did maybe cause myself is I'm running all NZXT stuff here, and with my previous motherboard,
to get everything to operate. I only had two USB 2.0 headers on the motherboard, so I used a provided Y splitter by NZXT, and I had split two 6-channel RGB that had 3-channel fans on them as well. I split two of those into one 2.0 header. So computer techs, if you're watching, let me know if maybe this is what I did. And I may have overloaded the voltage on one of those pins and screwed my motherboard that way too. So long story short, no matter what the cause is, the effect is the same. The motherboard was pooched. I was having critically bad issues with my PC. This is in part why I didn't upload videos for a while, because I wasn't confident that my PC wasn't crash doing videos, and I had my PC actually lock up where it just wouldn't reboot. It was stuck in a cycle with my VRAM light was on and my CPU light was on. And so I called the computer tech, a mobile computer tech, to come down here and fix it. The owner of the business was great. I'm not going to list names, but anyways, I talked to him. We kind of came to an over-the-phone conclusion that it was probably most likely a hardware failure. I was thinking it was a motherboard. He suggested maybe it's just a CPU. So we sent a tech down here. It took days. It was on the eve of a big snowfall. The guy tried to call me and cancel. I held him to it because I already waited. And anyways, he showed up here. I told him what was going on again, because clearly he didn't get the message from his boss. And he basically told me that the chipset's running too hot because it was running at about 75 degrees, which honestly is completely normal. They run up to 95 degrees. As anybody that knows anything about AMD, which I tried to explain, is that it's throttled off of temperature that gives you given performance versus temperature. Anyways, he basically told me I'm an idiot and to get an Intel system, and he proceeded to tell me that I could probably put an Intel chip on that motherboard, which had me really questioning, and one of the reasons why I'm not naming this business. So anyways, I decided it would be a lot cheaper to start throwing parts at the computer. I was going to buy just the same motherboard again, and then I thought, well, what if... Okay, so the redneck logic in me will back up, hit the brakes, go rewind. The redneck logic kicked in, and I thought, what if I spend $260 on a motherboard and it's doing the same thing? So here's where my logic comes in, and this will explain the redneck. So instead of buying that one, I chose to go with, well, what you've seen in the video earlier, the ROG Strix version of the E670E-E, which is, in Canadian, it was about a $600 motherboard. So the theory behind that is at least if I buy a way better motherboard and my motherboard's not broken, number one, I can sell my old motherboard, and number two, it's an upgrade. So I'm not just in the same situation out $300, I'm just an idiot that's out $600 with a banging motherboard that solved all my problems, that's an overclocker's dream. But anyways, that's all the wind I got to spit at you for today in today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you do, don't forget, this is a really small channel. What I really need is your support. So that support comes in the form of liking and subscribing and staying tuned for future content. Maybe, I don't know, for the first time I'm going to say it, why don't you even turn on the notification bell? Da-ding! And then when I put out my maybe not so great, but you might think it's great content, you'll be first to know. But as always, guys, be kind to each other, and we'll see you in the next video.